I love the idea of the pendulum. It just has a feeling of time and weight to it. It speaks to me of old machinery, of sort of early industrial kind of procedures. So this is just my kind of first foray into making a sound sculpture. I have a lot of pianos lying around. I do have multiple pianos that I've picked up from pianos that have been going begging, really. So people that are sitting on the sidewalk, or they are in people's homes and they need to be gone, and so I generally will say yes and take them, and then I deconstruct them to a degree and use their parts for lots of different things. And yeah, when I have too many, I've kind of got to think of other ways to deal with them. And this one was a beautiful example of an upright piano. So you can see that the strings are all vertical, like a harp, basically. And this is called an upright grand because it's similar to a grand that's been laid, that's horizontal, but it's been stood up. And in a more modern piano, which is often quite a wee bit lower as well, your bass strings will go diagonally and your treble strings will go over top. And but this looks, I think it looks a lot better, and it has that whole harp feel and look, and can effectively be played like a harp as well. I'd like to get a harp player to come in and actually do some performance at some point, would be one of my aspirations with this piece. And then I've used the parts of the piano up into here. You can see this top part here and this part here that holds the sandstone were the parts from underneath the actual keyboard of the piano, and this here was the lid, a couple of extra other pieces, but that's holding the sandstone. So this is a sandstone for sharpening knives, scissors, not scissors so much, knives, anything like sheep shearing, old sheep shearing scissors. And they would traditionally sit in a metal trough with water in the bottom with an electric motor, and I grew up with one of these in my father's workshop, so it has a sort of a sense of nostalgia with it. And it's heavy, and it was a utilitarian object in its day, of course, and it speaks to me of old machinery, of sort of early industrial kind of procedures. And I obtained it from a local school because it was sitting in the bike shed, and I love the idea of the pendulum. It just has a feeling of time and weight to it. It speaks of all that sort of a thing, and you can just see by the way it swings, you can kind of get the feeling of how heavy it is, and therefore I love things that through movement show their weight, show their mass. And of course we know traditionally how heavy pianos are, and so they're both sort of quite substantial objects, and I just sort of thought, well, simply having one come into contact with another and mic it is a good way to sort of start, not getting too carried away with sound sculptures, but a beginning. And in true pendulum form, when I give it a wee nudge and it hits the piano, it never hits it twice unless I keep it moving. It just hits, and then the next one will ever so close without hitting it, and so on. So it's getting less in every swing, but minutely because it's so heavy. So it'll swing for an hour if I give it if it's like this. I'll come back in sort of 45 minutes later and the thing's still moving. And so it doesn't take too much force just to keep it going. And of course you can get it horribly wrong if you push it too hard. And the other sound, of course, is the screen in behind, which is not in this shot, but and the idea is just to repurpose instruments in a different way. don't want the piano anymore, I've got plenty of them. We know what a piano does, but this is like a piano in two different pieces with a sandstone, and to achieve something else. And I find it kind of mesmerising and peaceful.